I'm very curious how they're gonna handle like the chapter where the elf turns Inata into like a Shota and basically just assaults him. Like, how the hell are they gonna slice of life that?
I'm thinking this is a genius business idea. We just buy up the rights to a bunch of hentai. We're like Bible Black rights, Oni Chi rights, and then we make them into slice of life anime. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another installment of the Seasonal Discharge. I'm Aarlon, and joining me today is Tamika Likes to Draw or Coco.
Hello.
Today we are going to be talking about the spring anime season of 2025, and the first show we're going to be talking about is To Be Hero X, which is actually a Chinese anime.
This was a show that I initially looked up because I saw people posting clips of it on Twitter, and I was like, oh, that animation looks kind of neat, pretty experimental. So I decided to look it up, and it's a show that's about a guy who basically loses his job because he's in advertising for superheroes, and all of his pitches keep getting turned down.
He's hyper fixated on becoming a superhero, so his pitches revolve around that.
Around the idea that anybody can become a hero. Because what makes you different is what makes you Spider-Man.
Which is bad PR when they're trying to like boost a specific hero's image.
Yeah.
That makes no sense.
Which is actually kind of stupid when you think about it, because that's what people like about Spider-Man. A lot of people like Spider-Man specifically because of the fact that he is, or was, I'm going to say was, the everyman.
But that guy is he Hero X? Is that his name?
Nice.
Oh, Nice. Yeah. Nice is. I mean, his thing, I guess, is that he's nice, as the boss says.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Nice is definitely not an everyman. He's more like perfect in every way. Yeah. He's an idol, you know.
He's Superman.
Yeah.
And speaking of
Superman is an everyman. But
yeah. And speaking of Nice, the main character is what's the main character's name? Oh, Ling. They keep referring to him as Ling Ling, but I'm not sure if that's actually his name or if I'm just mishearing. Because I'm like, damn, that's like a racist stereotype name, Ling Ling. But I swear that's what they're calling him. Anyways, Ling Ling's about to kill himself, and then he insults billboard or whatever.
He flips the bird to a billboard of Nice.
And Nice comes flying down.
Yeah, he just appears in front of him, and he just walks past, and he does his signature pose at him.
Nice at him. And he just jumps off the building and kills himself.
He just walks off the side of the building and fucking dies. It's the way it happens is so crazy.
And then Nice's managers show up, and I guess they arrest him because they don't want anyone finding out that Nice killed himself.
Yeah, he kind of gets blamed for it. They come out and they're like, where's Nice? And he's like,
yeah,
he walked off the building and fucking died.
I'm not gonna lie, not knowing anything about this show, for a second I thought this was gonna be like another The Boys type joint. So when Nice like descended from the skies after hearing Ling Ling insulting him, I was just like, oh shit, it's fucking over. He's about to get homelandered. And then he just kills himself, and I'm like, oh.
Thank God it's not The Boys. That would be so lame. This is so... I mean, it's such a good hook. Mm-hmm. The way it happened was just because they're like, why did that happen? Why'd he kill himself?
Yeah.
But they're like, hey, don't you look kind of like Nice?
Yeah, they like accidentally splash his hair with some white paint, and they're like, oh, yeah, he kind of looked like that guy. So we're gonna have you take his place from here on out.
So he just becomes the new Nice. And it's kind of like a perfect fit because since he worked at the ad agency who was like doing his PR, he like knows everything about Nice, so he can like perfectly play the character.
They kind of just gloss over it really fast, but they're like, yeah, so Nice gets his powers from like people trusting him. So like the more people place their trust in you, the more powerful you'll become. And he basically like over time becomes about as strong. Well, I don't think he can fly, but he becomes pretty combat capable. And I was actually surprised that that happened because I was expecting that one of the things he would have to deal with is the fact that people would be trying to fight him and he has no powers. And I was very curious to see how he would get out of such situations. But no, he gets powers and
Yeah,
he
I mean, jumping ahead a little bit, it seems like by accepting that he was nice, he like got the full powers
hmm
when he's fighting later. So
yeah.
I guess it's also like a self-perception thing. I don't know.
It kind of seems like that's just how powers in this universe work in general, because you have like the literal boss fight here, here, here. So like earlier we were talking about how he fired the main character. It turns out that the boss really gets off on firing people, and he literally gets a power up from like the fear of people losing their jobs.
Yeah, we totally left out the idol girl. He's also like got a girlfriend,
Yeah,
and he like
Moon.
does an interview with her. And the interviewer is like grilling him, like, "Oh, I know you're not the real nice," but he like perfectly answers the questions about the girlfriend because he's such a big fan.
He's obsessed with her. And then
Yeah, he
like
does say that, and everyone is like, "Oh, that's sweet."
the actual I liked how they handled the part where he was asked if Moon is actually his girlfriend.
Yeah.
His answer was total genius because he had to figure out how to. Because during the interviewer is like trying to expose him as a fake because I guess he was stalking Nice, the real Nice, and I guess he probably witnessed when the real Nice killed himself. So he caught on to the fact that Ling
Oh
Ling is
right,
now Nice.
he was the one viewer. There was an
No,
that was actually something I really
that
liked.
was
There was like
I think that was his boss actually.
no
No,
wait, what was the art? There was an article.
yeah, the article was about Ling Ling killing himself because they said that Ling Ling is the one who died, and the one who
Yeah,
saw
yeah,
that.
no, it was the interviewer guy. Because later the interviewer guy brings up the article and he's like pointing out like this is sus, and
hmm
he's like, oh, that was the one view on the article.
Also, as a side note, I can't get past the fact that the interviewer looks a little bit like Orochimaru because he does. What I was saying before about the interview, he gets past that by saying she's not my girlfriend, she's my goddess, which was a true answer because obviously he's a massive fan. And like the interviewer is using like a truth detector and he bypasses it completely. And I thought that was genius. And Ling Ling is clearly 500 IQ, and I bet all of his pitches were actually amazing. And his boss is just shitty, and they should have accepted all of his pitches.
Yeah, there was actually quite a bit of like genuinely clever writing in this.
Yeah.
Yeah, he beats the boss, and then
One thing I wanted to touch on about him beating the boss. I don't know if you were supposed to interpret it this way, but I kind of like the fact that since his powers come from trust, he was able to overcome his fight with his boss by having enough confidence and trust in himself to win. So, that was kind
yeah.
of. And also, I like all the art style changes in that fight. But we'll touch on that when we're done with the plot.
So after that, he goes to his house for the first time, I guess,
hmm
and he goes to bed, and his GF is in bed, and he's like, "Oh shit!" Uh,
Yeah.
and he's like all nervous, and he doesn't want to look at her and her jammies or whatever. So he takes a blanket and puts it over her, but then he gives in. He gets up to look at her from the front, and the girlfriend is also fucking dead.
Yep. Just straight up.
And that's the first episode.
But that didn't look like a suicide. She might have been murdered.
I mean, she had a very shocked expression on her face
Yeah, and it was
and
bloody
was
as hell.
bleeding.
It's actually
Yeah.
funny because I thought that Moon was gonna be like a long-lasting character in this because the way that she was acting throughout the episode, it seemed to me like she had caught on almost immediately that that wasn't the real Ling Ling.
I mean, she didn't really emote much at all. She kind of just looked like a little bit confused or surprised at all the. Oh, that was a pretty epic moment when he got pushed out of the car and he
Yeah,
turned it into to a spin.
but it was like her reaction to stuff like that, and like some of her reactions like during the interview that made me think, oh, maybe there's gonna be a thing there, and then she's dead, and like, oh, that was unexpected.
Yeah, I'm very much wondering like where they're gonna take it, because
hmm
we have killed off two of like the four characters already. The boss
Yeah.
is dead. Nice is dead. His GF is dead. So the only people that are left, I guess, are New Nice, the interviewer guy, and the boss lady.
Oh, you reckon the interviewer guy is gonna be like a regular?
Oh, for sure. I mean, he said, like, oh, I'll get you next time, Nice.
Basically, one of the main antagonists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Reoccurring antagonist, I guess.
So towards the end of the episode on the car ride to the house before that, one thing that actually did kind of surprise me was how much Ling Ling embraced being nice. Because at first he was pretty reluctant about it, and then he was like, "Well, I guess this is the role that I'm in." And I thought to start with, once he was like in the role, he would like all the accolades he gets and all the praise he gets from being a hero, but then he would sort of start getting like false identity issues, like, well, hang on, these people all love me and praise me because they think I'm someone else. But then, like, I guess by the end, he just sort of fully embraces it, like, yeah, I am nice from here on out. So that was something that kind of caught me off guard a little bit. I mean, it's possible it might become like a plot thread later, but that doesn't really seem like what it's about. And another thing that kind of caught me off guard was when he asked the manager lady about why Nice killed himself, and the lady basically is like, um, you'll get to that point yourself, and when you get there, it's up to you to decide what you want to do. And I'm like, okay, so you're saying that it comes with the job, the eventually wanting to kill yourself? I'm just saying, if I was Ling Ling, I'd be like, nope, I'm out of here. Bye.
Yeah, there's gotta be like some terrible, impossible choice that he has to make or something. We can only
Hmm.
assume. But it's so weird because it didn't come off like Nice was killing himself. It kind of seemed like he wasn't expecting he'd fall like that.
At first, I thought he just straight up killed himself, because he heard like Ling Ling's comments. He was like, because he was yelling like, no one is gonna give a shit about you once you become old because people only like you because you're hot. So I thought he was like, yeah, you're right. And I'm gonna kill myself now. But yeah, we should talk about the animation because this animation was pretty good. It experiments a lot with like 2D and 3D stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of that Spider Verse trying to look 2D, 3D thing a lot of stuff is
Yeah,
doing these days.
yeah. Well, there are times where it'll like cut specifically to actual 2D animation like fully, and then cut back to 3D
Oh,
animation.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I forgot about
Like
that.
the opening shot is just full 2D animation. I think the ending sequence of the fight with the boss is also full 2D. Despite the different art styles, I actually like it. It kind of gives off like a sort of anthology-esque vibe, all contained within like a single episode. Because even like the art style of like the boss talking about his powers, how he got his powers, that's 2D, but it's like a totally different art style from like whenever we see 2D stuff from like Ling Ling's perspective. And I mean, that's not surprising because there actually are quite a few studios working on this. Like, there's like at least four that I know of. I think at the end of the episode, also Mappa was listed on here.
That's part of why I guess I was confused about it being a Chinese anime. Like in
Yeah.
my head, it wasn't a Chinese anime, even though I should have known because of the names. But
Hmm.
I think I just
Yeah.
saw the Mappa in like the title card or something. I was like, oh, it's an anime.
Yeah, you've got Mappa, Aniplex is on this, which, I believe is part of A1 or owns A1. They did Licorice Recoil, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I really do like the art style from the 2D segments when it's from like Ling Ling's perspective because it really reminds me of Tetsuya Nomura's art style, or more specifically the art style from The World Ends With You. I was gonna say an underrated game, but I actually haven't played it. I just know that other people like it, so. But yeah, no, the animation is really good, and then the CG style is basically straight up like it's basically straight up arcane. Like sometimes the characters literally look like if you
It's a little bit different. Okay, I'm gonna say something that might piss everyone off. This show
looks better.
rem- no, I mean yes, but no, that's not what I was gonna say. This show reminds me of Miraculous Ladybug.
Right.
Something about like the way the faces move, like
Hmm.
the mouths when they like stretch out wide is like Uncanny Valley in the exact same way that show is.
Well, the thing that kind of tripped me up a little bit with this is I watched this in English, and I mean, the lip syncing, I think it's a little bit more noticeable because it's a CG show. It's a little bit trippy watching this in English because the characters are so obviously not speaking that. I mean, over time, you it kind of fades in the background. It becomes less noticeable, but that's what tripped me with the lip syncing a little bit.
Even outside of the animation, just like premise wise, it kind of reminded me of Miraculous. That like you've
Hmm.
got like the hot couple duo superheroes, and then you've got like
And one
villains
has,
that what?
and one there's like an identity thing going there a little bit.
Oh yeah, I guess.
Hmm.
I mean, they didn't lean too much into that, but
Yeah.
uh, then like there's the whole business with the boss of like you take like an ordinary person and then like they become a super villain. Like the boss just showing up and being like, I'm evil now and I have like boss themed powers was like so miraculous. Not to say like miraculous is pretty ass and this is not, obviously.
Yeah. I've only seen of Miraculous what Twitter puts on my timeline, and I think that's for the best, LOL.
Yes.
Um, I did want to say that it seems like the sort of like arcane-esque art style, arcane Spider-Verse, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It does seem to be getting very popular in Eastern Asia because this is, I think, the third Eastern Asian product I've seen animated in this style. There's another one coming out soon on Netflix called K-pop Hunters that kind of looks like that and also does like the 2D thing with like the face expressions. So the characters are more expressive, kind of like Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
Then there was another show that I watched on Netflix that came out like last year or the year before called Tokyo Overdrive. It also kind of had that art style, and that was Japanese, from three different Eastern Asian countries. And it seems like, yeah, I mean, you were telling me that Spider-Man, like Across the Spider-Verse, is pretty popular in Japan already.
Yeah.
I was trying to see if the same goes for Arcane, if that show was popular in Eastern Asia. I was able to find out that it was popular in Japan. I didn't really find out about these other countries, but either way, it seems like that part of the world has taken a liking to this art style, which is interesting to see. And to be fair, a lot of these shows do look pretty good, so I guess that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, I guess I can't really think of an example of one that I thought looked bad. Like, it's definitely easier to pull off than just making it like CG and then lowering the frame rate and pretending it's an anime.
Yeah,
Like Japan used. Well,
they still do
the,
that.
they still do it, but they do it a lot less now, I feel like.
To be honest, Japan's like trying to convince you that 3D is 2D game is so OP that I didn't know until you told me that Ranking of Kings was 3D.
I mean, that's good. We like
Yeah.
that. What we don't like is when it's like video game models, but then they turn down the frame rate and they're like, since the frame rate is lowered,
What we
it's
don't
2D now.
what we don't want is X-arm. If you're gonna
Yes.
do 3D, just commit to doing 3D and make it look well. I guess Trigun isn't really committing because they're trying to make it look all cell shaded, but cell shaded 3D can look nice. So, and Trigun look nice. So there you go.
Well, I feel like the whole point is not that you have to commit to doing 3D necessarily, because like this show is also that of like this
Yeah,
show is also cell shaded. I
yeah. Well,
think.
it's got like the painterly thing going on that like Arcane does, but like
Yeah,
slight.
I think that's a type of cell shading.
Hmm.
Like, I don't know.
All this to say, it's a pretty good looking show, and I can see why a lot of people really like it. The premise is pretty strong. The first episode was pretty strong.
That was a real. I could see this like falling off a cliff in quality,
Hmm.
but just from the first episode, very very strong start.
The thing that really sold me on this show was when the main character started psyching himself up to beat the boss. I really like that scene.
You know what this kind of reminds me of? It's got the same like kind of edgy feel as Go Go Loser Ranger,
Which is another show that kind of reminded people of The Boys. So there you go.
but like tonally, both these are better than the boys.
I actually haven't seen Go Go Loser Ranger past the first episode because
I
everything
never
just goes
finished
into my
it.
pause and dies.
Yeah, all my seasonals I get halfway through and then goes into my paused and dies.
Lol.
I think did that get a season 2?
I think so, yeah.
I guess I got to get back to that one. Anyway, I mean, my I'd say my overall thoughts on this show is mostly just like bizarre. It was really good and just bizarre.
I will say I didn't watch every show this season. I never do. But out of the ones that I watched, this is easily the best animated show of the season.
I don't know about that. There was some really strong animation. Like, okay, obviously the worst looking show we watched was obviously Yandere Dark Elf.
Hmm.
But like outside of that, it ranged from like pretty good looking to mostly really good. So
Yeah.
I'd give it probably like an 8 out of 10 from the first episode. But it could go up or down based on where they take it.
Yeah, these seasonals are known for their strong starts.
Next show is My Hero Academia Vigilantes. Do they do that thing?
Yeah, something like
It's a
that.
My Hero spinoff slash prequel. So basically, there's this dude who just
Mr. Nice Guy.
there's this dude who's just like a really chill, nice guy, and he wants to be a superhero, but his quirk, because this is the My Hero Academia world, so everyone just has like genetically inherited superpowers. If you aren't familiar, his quirk is this complete ass ability that lets him,
Hey, it's convenient for transport.
if he's touching a surface at 3 different points, so he needs like at least 3 limbs touching it, then he can slide at the speed of like a bicycle.
Or just under.
It's basically like a slightly better bicycle.
Yeah.
So not a very useful power. So he's not officially licensed, but he dresses up, technically illegally, he dresses up in a costume and just goes around the town doing good deeds. And he really gets off on it.
Indeed. He had
maybe a little too much.
the big come.
Yes.
Honestly, I feel like so much more good deeds would be done by people if we could genetically alter everyone to make it so that they get off on it. Because
Yes.
everyone would do it just so they can get the big come.
And then there's also a pop idol lady,
Not Harley Quinn.
and her name is Pop.
Is it not like Bunny Pop or something? Because she jumps like a
No,
freaking
Pop Step. Pop Step is her name.
Oh, fucking hell, Bunny Pop.
Honey Pop, my favorite video game.
Lol.
I guess she does like illegal concert. She's not really a vigilante at all, but she gets grouped in, I guess.
So she does live performances on the street, dressed up as a hero.
But so they characterize Koichi.
Who, by the way, I watched this show dubbed, and
Yeah.
the main character Koichi literally just sounds exactly like Deku. I don't think it's Justin Briner voicing him, but I mean they didn't even try.
He just lost the dice roll. He got, there were 1 of 6 voices he could have gotten, and he happened to get the same one.
Yeah, and it's just like, come on, guys.
Lol. But so they characterize him pretty early on as like a very cowardly person because he runs into like some thugs, and he like
One of
bumps
them
into
being
them.
Wolverine.
They like make him grovel and apologize, and then he runs away.
Yeah.
But then later he encounters them again, and
He encounters them at the store that he works at.
I just remember later.
Oh, yeah. No, he encounters them at the store and then he fucking gets his ass beat and he gives them the slip again.
Then he encounters them again later, and they're, I guess, like trying
God
to
damn,
gain.
3 times in a row. Jesus Christ.
What luck? They're trying to like gang rape Pop Step, I guess.
It seemed more like they wanted to post pictures of her face without the covering on it on the internet.
Okay.
But it really seemed...
I watched too much anime. My mind went straight to the gutter.
Well, that was the first thing I thought when I watched it, because I was like, fucking hell, it's been so long since we've had like the seasonal rape anime, because there's like there was a time like 2 years ago where it seemed like there was at least one every season, and now that time has passed, and then we got this where it's basically that but not quite that.
Yeah. They're doing whatever to her, and Koichi sees, and he has a little bit of an Usopp moment. He's like, oh, they're scary, I'm gonna run away, I'm just a little bitch.
Yeah.
But then he's like, oh, but you gotta be brave, Koichi, you're a
Well,
hero.
he really loves heroes. In fact, his costume is basically an All Might costume. So he's trying to like psych himself up and be like his favorite hero, you know.
So he psychs himself up and he tries to fight them, and he just totally gets his ass beat. Actually, this was like a total mirroring of like a moment in middle school I had where some kids were like bullying me, and I was like, oh, fuck these kids. So then I like finally worked up the rage to like, I'm gonna get in a fight. And I like run up and I punched one of them in the back, and my hand kind of just like bounced off this kid. And he turned around and he was like, what was that?
Bro.
And I was like, I'm punching you. And he was like, okay.
Was this guy like 20 times your size? What the fuck?
No, I mean, we were both like 12-year-olds, so we were 12-year-old sized.
Bruh.
So yeah, that was a bit embarrassing. So that was basically what happened to Koichi.
That just reminds me of that one scene in the original Transformers cartoon where like the human in that series legitimately thought he could punch a Transformer and actually punches him in the back. And then the Transformer just turns around and swats him away.
Damn.
Yeah, this is when Transformers were actually like small enough that like a human could actually touch their back in the first place.
Yeah.
But, you know. And then not Batman shows up.
Knuckle Duster. Knuckle Duster, who is another vigilante, shows up, and he's like crazy, and he beats the thugs' asses, and he takes Koichi, and he's like, "You're gonna be my apprentice.
Exactly,
You're gonna be my
like
sidekick."
exactly like Batman. He just sees some random kid who puts up a slightly impressive feat and is like, I'm going to put you in harm's way. And when you die, I'm not going to learn the lesson that I probably shouldn't do this. I'm still going to get someone else to do it. And incidentally, it really sounded like the voice direction they were going for with him in the dub is they really wanted him to be voiced by Steve Bloom, the guy who voices Wolverine, and they couldn't. And I couldn't handle it. It was kind of bad because it sounded like a parody of Wolverine.
Koichi sees this and he's like, this guy's fucking insane. I don't want anything to do with him. And Knuckle Duster basically forces him to.
Yeah, Knuckle Duster like wants his help to like find out where these like.
Oh yeah, it's the drugs.
Yeah,
it's the drugs from My Hero. If you've seen My Hero, that like boosts people's quirks.
It's Compound V, but not really. And he's just like randomly inspecting people's tongues.
He drags Koichi along, and then I guess Popstep like sees them doing this, and she joins in too. And yeah, Knuckle Duster's just walking up to random people, and he's like, "You look suspicious. I'm gonna beat your ass."
And then
Koichi is like, "Don't do that." So Koichi and Popstep are like trying to hold him back as he's trying to beat up some random innocent bypasser. And then Eraserhead shows up and is like, "You are a criminal." And that's the end of the first episode.
That moment kind of felt like, you know, when you have like a series that's so far removed from everything else, and then like a main character shows up, like fucking in Gen V, when they're like, well, we need to give people a reason to like watch this, so let's put Homelander in there. And it's like,
yeah, it's definitely like the cameos definitely felt a little bit heavy-handed, and like I get why, because as a first episode it's a little bit slow. Like not a ton happens. Did you watch the second episode?
I did not. I will say one thing I kind of like about the fact that we have this spin-off is it does feel like it's leaning into the meta of comic books, because this is obviously like a thing that is heavily inspired by comic books. And I guess the mangaka was like, why don't I just do the worst thing about them, which is make another series that takes place in the same universe, and then you'll have to read that series to make sense of what's happening here. Now, fortunately, that's not really the case. I don't think you actually have to read Vigilantes at all to get context for stuff in My Hero Academia, but
it's very much supplementary. What I will say about it is that
it's just nice. It's just kind of cool that it like during the thing, it's like, oh yeah, there's other characters.
Sure, but it's kind of funny because the backstory of me reading this is I had never or maybe I'd heard of it, but I don't think I was interested. And my sister-in-law was like, "Oh, have you read Vigilantes? It's got like Stain's backstory in it." So I was like, "Oh, well, I guess if she wants me to, I guess I'll go read it." And I read Vigilantes, and then I wanted to talk to her about it, and she was like, "Oh, I didn't read that. I just read the arc that Stain is in because I wanted his backstory."
Lol. And incidentally, that's also exactly how people treat comic books. Because, sometimes there'll be like a crossover event and it'll be like between two superhero comics, and you'll have to go and read that other character's comic. And you're not going to fucking like read all of Iron Man just to get context for this Spider-Man Iron Man crossover. You're just going to read the part that Spider-Man is in for this crossover and then move on with your day.
So here's where I drop my spicy hot take about Vigilantes. I think that Vigilantes is a better show than My Hero Academia.
Damn.
I think it's better because Vigilantes, it's kind of like what My Hero Academia promised to be but failed to deliver from the premise. Because, like, I remember, like, when my friend told me about
No,
My
are you
Hero
talking about like
Academia.
the whole everyone expected Deku to basically be Batman?
Yeah, kind of, yeah. Because when my friend first told me about My Hero, and this was like the first time I'd heard of it, he described it as like, oh yeah, it's like a superhero show where it's like a world where everyone has superpowers, but the main character, and it's like how he goes from that to becoming the strongest hero. And it's like, oh, that's like a really interesting premise. Like, I wonder how he's going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out the way he does that is he just gets gifted the strongest hero's powers, and then like he also gets the powers of like a bunch of other strongest heroes.
Yeah,
So
he's
he
like
has
the
like 10
Avatar.
powers. It's like, well, that's not very interesting. This is like, what if they actually did something like that? Because even though he's not quirkless, Koichi, his powers are bad. You know, it kind of reminds me more of something like one early One Piece before they betrayed their premise. Slight spoilers of like the idea of like you take a power that just seems on its face so bad, but then it turns out like, well, you can take basically any power, and if you use
Yeah.
it in like an inventive enough way, you can become a good fighter.
Like a lot of people say that about Luffy's Devil Fruit.
Yeah,
Although,
exactly.
although a
That's
part of
kind
me
of what I was
like
referencing.
a part of me raises an eyebrow a little bit because I'm like, well, from the outset we see pretty effective use of that, which kind of makes me think that Vigilantes might actually be a little bit better than One Piece in that regard because we actually get to appreciate how bad the power he has actually is, and we'll actually be, I'm assuming we'll be seeing him like actually refine it and like
Yeah.
make good use of it. Whereas like with a character like Luffy, you just see him in his childhood, and then you time skip like 10 years, and he's already like one of the strongest people in the East Blue.
Yeah, and you get the flashbacks eventually to see kind of his progression, but
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. But still like it's interesting that you can take something that like on paper you hear like,
Hmm.
oh, it's a fruit that makes you made of rubber. Well, that doesn't sound that strong, and because of how he uses it, it becomes ridiculously OP. But yeah, I think like the fact that they don't just jump right into it with Vigilantes is both a strength and a weakness, because obviously the strength of it is that you get a really satisfying progression over the course of it, and obviously the weakness is that you get a first episode like this where like not much happens, and most people are just like, it was lame, but I'm here for the My Hero characters. But I guess they've got the My Hero characters to lure people in.
And I'm also hoping that they commit to the main character becoming less of a coward instead of 200 episodes into the series, having him nearly abandon his friends,
For
like
Bobby.
like Usopp and Dressrosa, since we're making the One Piece comparisons.
Yeah, that was fucked up.
Yes.
Some Oda needs a real editor. Anyway, what did you think about it?
Well, I'll say that I don't have like, I guess you don't need to have much of a strong connection to MHA itself to be able to enjoy this, but
Hmm.
my connection was admittedly weakened by the fact that I haven't touched MHA in like quite a while actually. like I read quite a few ways in and then just completely lost where I am. I mean, I thought it was fine. I'd probably have to see more of it to like have an impression on it, but I thought it was fine. I didn't hate it.
Huh, interesting that I guess this is a superhero season. Two superhero shows in back to back.
Oh, actually, one other thing I want to say is the animation in this was good,
Yeah, it
and
was all right.
I'm well. I guess maybe it seemed like it was good to me because my expectations were a little bit low because a lot of people have been talking about how the animation in My Hero Academia has kind of gone to shit. So this was certainly,
I'm sure there will be a decline. You know,
yeah.
you break out the good animation for the first episode. I hope this gets all adapted though, because it's good.
How long is Vigilantes? Is it finished?
Um, I assume it's finished.
Because the actual My Hero Academia is finished. So,
I caught up to it, and that was years ago. So
oh yeah, it's probably over.
yeah, it ended its run in 2022.
Oh, okay.
So it had wow, it had an 8-year run.
That's a lot longer than I was expecting. And is it drawn by the same guy? I always find it very impressive when like a mangaka is like doing multiple manga at once. Like fucking Hiro Mashima. I swear there was a point in time where he was working on like 3 or 4 different manga at once. Granted, that explained why his art in Eden Zero wasn't as good as his art in Fairy Tail, but the decline wasn't that sharp, so like it's still pretty admirable.
Vigilantes is 126 chapters. So I've probably read like 2/3 of it. It was illustrated by Betancourt.
That doesn't sound like a Japanese name.
Betancourt. Yeah, it doesn't seem like he did anything else.
Hmm.
Apparently, the two worked on Spider-Man Octogirl.
Ah, the fucking Dr. Octopus Isekai lolly thing. Interesting.
I guess that makes me interested in that. Him working on it, not it being a lolly thing.
Lol.
If I was watching this first episode in a vacuum, I'd probably give it like a strong 6. Having read it, I'd give like what I read probably an 8 out of 10.
Not a whole lot to go off yet.
Yeah.
Just that up. Actually, one other thing I wanted to say that I don't know why, but for some reason, this being about vigilantes, I just expected it to be edgier and was actually kind of surprised it's more or less the same tone.
Yeah.
So,
It's interesting that we didn't even meet one of the main characters yet. The other main character in this is like the American All Might, which is kind of weird because All Might is American, but like
wait, is he actually like
American
American
All Might in
national?
like a very bad way.
Is he like
Like
actually American, like nationality wise?
yeah, like he's from America and he left America. He left the USA because he like got his license suspended.
Bruh,
He like cheats on his wife and stuff.
bruh.
So he's American in a bad way, but he's also like kind of cool.
Oh no, I meant his All Might American, like nationality wise.
No, All Might is. I'm pretty sure. Well, he's blonde, but he's a Japanese hero.
But also, he doesn't look human, like when he's in his normal form. But anyways, that's a whole other thing. So, I mean, all of his moves are named after states. So,
No, All Might is not American, so he's just an American themed hero.
oh, he's an Ameribu. I see how it is. It seems like there's quite a few American themed characters in this franchise because there's like that big buff lady that I saw people talking about. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about that.
Next is Yandere Dark Elf.
Oh boy, Yandere Dark Elf. So interesting bit of backstory with this one. Despite this being a slice of life anime, slice of life rom-com question mark? I don't know. This
Comedic scene.
slice of life rape com. There you go. It's actually based on a hentai dojin, like a full-on hentai. And I guess I think sometime after like the 3rd chapter came out of the dojin, the mangaka Sora Nanako was just like, you know what? I want to make like a slice of life manga out of this. Obviously, being drawn by a hentai artist,
Iconic.
it's kind of similar to Plus Sized Elf, and that Plus Sized Elf is also drawn by a hentai artist. So like both like their fan service is a little bit more explicit than what you would normally expect. Although to be honest, Looking back on it, I think it's safe to say that like fan service that shows like full nudity or like at least fully exposed breasts are becoming a lot more common.
Takamine, another
Yeah,
anime. We got some full titty groping in that.
Takamine, you have shows like Mato, blah blah blah.
Yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
saying I remember a time where like this wasn't like people like, "Oh my God, High School DxD shows full titties." And it's like, well, now that's becoming like a little bit more common. But yeah, so the fan service here is a little bit more explicit, which is, obviously a side effect of it being drawn by hentai doujin artist. I wrote down that the last work they did was Himikishi Olivia. Like that's something I would recognize, but I don't. Plot wise, it's a reverse isekai. The main character, whose name is Hinata, defeated the demon lord with his party, and he goes back to his own world, and he makes a promise with the dark elf named Mirabelle, or Belle for short, that they would meet again.
Yeah, the Dark Elf is like, you promised we would get married. And he's
Yeah.
like, no, no, I did not.
And he's also like, yeah, this elf is kind of obsessed with me. Like, he pretty much says that word for word in his internal dialogue. Not too long after that, we cut to Belle actually making it into Inata's world. And, I mean, it pretty much just goes on from there. It's bare titties and fan service galore, I guess.
She shows up at his house and she's like, I live here now and I'm gonna rape you.
Yeah, pretty much like the first time she takes a bath, he's like helping her with that. And then like in the midst of it, she just decides to try and sexually assault him. We obviously get clued into the fact that she is very yandere-esque because I mean hence the title, because when she's like, yeah, I'm gonna stay here, it looks like it's like all in his mind, but I'm pretty sure it's like actually happening, where she like develops this dark sona and like,
Yeah, they do that a couple times in the episode where it's
yeah.
they've got the two sides of it where they show her like saying the outwardly like happy thing, and then you've got the hallucinated what she actually is like low key saying,
Mm-hmm.
where she's
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, I'm gonna you are mine. I am darkness. I'm gonna rape you."
Yeah, yeah. Um, it's it's definitely something. And then you've got the next episode where she's so possessive of the main character, in fact, that she obsessively watches what he's doing through a talisman, and obviously she witnesses something that she found deeply unpleasant, which is a girl's panties in his face because the girl fell on him, as that tends to happen in anime. And then she decides, okay, to make sure that I'm there to make sure girls don't tempt you, I'm going to come with you to school from now on. And when she sees the girl that accidentally sat on Hinata's face, she basically uh, threatens to kill her using magic. And I found
This must have been episode 2 because I don't remember this.
I found that moment very amusing in a way because like she the reaction from the main character after that is like, Belle, what you're doing is not okay. And then she stops. And I'm just saying my reaction would be a little bit stronger than the main character if I saw like someone trying to kill one of my classmates, using magic. And she's like, oh, don't look at me all disappointed like that. And then she runs upstairs to the roof of the school, and like they have their moment. Then the other girl shows up and she's like, wait a minute, I recognize that. What you did there was magic, right? Because like Belle introduced herself as someone from another world, and like everyone
Interesting.
everyone thought she was a cosplayer because obviously she has the elf ears and stuff. Then she realized, oh, you actually tried to kill me using real magic there. You actually have magic powers. And she's like, oh, I'm super into that because I'm like an otaku and shit. And I'm like, I don't care how otaku you are. If an elf just tried to kill you with magic, you'd probably want to be as far away from her as humanly possible.
I don't know. You could be like she could be like Lloyd from Seventh Prince, where he gets burned alive by magic, and he's just like, "Yo, this is sick. I love magic."
Bruh. Yeah. I mean, I guess if you're that into it, maybe. It's a slice of life show. You wouldn't really expect much to happen. I mean, there are more interesting slice of life shows than this, but I mean, this was exceptionally boring. But you know what? after I watched this, I was like, well, damn. So I'm gonna go jack it to the Dojin now.
Bruh.
And when that happened, I actually realized, wait a minute, the plot of like the first two chapters of the Dojin are like pretty much exactly this plot of the Slice of Life episodes too. They're just obviously more focused on sex. Like obviously, as soon as the girl like returns from, as soon as Belle returns from like the fucking fantasy world, the first thing they do obviously is just fuck for like 50 straight pages. And then like the second chapter is also about going to school, only instead of introducing like the classmate girl after she almost kills like random, instead of like the classmate girl, it's like some random background character girls. They just fuck again, and the chapter ends on the roof, just like the second episode did. So it's pretty much like the slice of life is basically just like an alternate timeline where it's like, yeah, instead, what if they just like did normal things instead of just fucking, I guess? What if we took the plot of the chapters and turned it into a slice of life thing, which kind of makes me curious. I'm very curious how they're gonna handle like the chapter where like the elf turns Inata into like a Shota and basically just assaults him. Like, how
Bruh.
the hell are they gonna slice of life that? Like, or
I'm
like,
thinking I'm thinking this is a genius business idea. We just buy up the rights to a bunch of hentai. We're like Bible Black rights, Oni Chi rights,
God
and then
damn,
we
you're
make
dropping some fucking old ass. Jesus.
and then
Moni
we
Chichi Reborn? Do people even still remember that shit? Holy fuck.
and then we make them into a slice of life anime.
Honestly, with Bible Black, you could actually, I think it's already like slightly action oriented. I forget, but like you could probably turn that into an action thing, like unironically. And the funny thing about a lot of hentais, well, not so much modern hentais, but like older hentais from like the 90s up until like I'd probably say like the 2010s, is that a lot of them actually do have a plot, or at least they try to, especially the ones that are like in fantasy settings. And you could very easily, if you wanted to, turn that into like a regular ass anime that doesn't have any porn. Like it probably wouldn't be
Yeah.
that hard. But this was not that, because I mean the original already has no plot to start with, and they turned it into one of the, like if you don't have like a really compelling premise and very interesting characters, it becomes, they turn it into a slice of life thing, and you have to like have something really strong to like make, at least for me, make that genre like good, because it becomes boring really fast. Ignore this completely and just go read the Dojin. It's a 10 out of 10 fap.
Bruh. The episodes being 10 minutes helped me not be so bored, but I agree it was kind of lame.
Yeah,
Shit, what was the Pog elf one called?
elf san something. Plus sized elf.
Yeah, plus sized elf. That one was infinitely more entertaining than this. The elf in that was also way more attractive than this Yandere girl.
Damn, Aarlon pulled a colorism.
I mean, there is a dark elf in plus sized elf, in fairness, and she's pretty hot.
I
But
actually wanted to say one of the things that really kind of surprised me is that I thought from the very moment I initially found like it actually is like a massive coincidence that like this fucking anime came out like 2 seasons after I found the Dojin. When I found the Dojin, I thought the elf was black, and she's not. She's tanned, and I found that very disappointing. And I found it even more disappointing when they tried to do like a racism allegory, because apparently dark elves are like a bad omen in the fantasy world, so they're pretty looked down upon. I'm like, okay,
honestly, I wouldn't take that too seriously,
just
Coco,
make her
because
black.
like
Just make her black.
I don't think like Asian people really have much, like Japanese people have much of a concept of like being black. It wouldn't surprise me if they described an actually black person as having tan skin.
I feel like they must, right? Because you have like, I mean, first of all, there are some anime that have like legitimately black characters, like Hunter x Hunter.
Yeah, but those are far and few between.
I still remember that scene in Attack on Titan where they had, I think his name is Onyankopon, and then like the fucking characters in Attack on Titan had never met a black person before, so they were like, "Why is your skin dark?" I don't know. I found that really funny. But incidentally, you mentioned plus-sized elf earlier. This anime is actually animated by the same studio that did that show.
Oh,
Yeah, and their name, the studio is called Studio Elias. And one thing I kind of picked up on is the fact that well, the first thing they ever did was a show that was just an outright hentai. you know, it was one where it was about like the main character's best friend like gender swapping, so they became a girl. So they just were like, well, what if we fuck now? Uh, you know what?
Nice.
Funnily enough, it was a long time ago, but I'm pretty sure I've seen the doujin of that too. Listen, I spent a bit too much time on with doujins. Okay, one thing I kind of noticed is that they don't really put out that much anime, and like the gap between the releases of their anime is oftentimes quite huge. So now I'm just like thoroughly convinced that this studio is just like a small group of like friends that like will occasionally just be like reading either extremely lewd fan service manga or like even sometimes actual hentai, and then they'll be like, "Oh shit, guys, this shit is fucking hot. We got to get together and animate this." Like that's literally just how they do it. Is that they just go off that, and that's why their release schedule of anime is so infrequent.
Kings.
Yes. Now, if only they could actually carry on that hotness into the animation, because honestly, I mean, the animation in this, not that great. The manga looks better. Once again, just go read that. Oh, better yet,
Yeah.
just go read the doujin.
What I'll say about this is like, bad animation aside, honestly, I just don't fully get the appeal of like yandere's. I to some extent can get it because it's like, oh well, like it's a girl that's obsessed with you. But when it crosses into the territory of being like puzzling to me is when it's like true yandere's that are like, I'm gonna kill you and then kill myself, or like I'm gonna kidnap you and steal your pee.
Bruh.
To me, that I don't really see what
You
people
know,
see in that.
it's actually funny because a part of me wants to say that I agree with you that I don't understand the appeal of yandere, but then I remember that like if you go on my favorites on a website like Joboru, like half the shit on there will be like a yandere forcing the person to knock them up. It's weird because I'm over here like, yeah, I agree with that. And then I'm like, but also when like a yandere forces you to get them pregnant, that's hot. So I don't know.
So I guess someone else is their equivalent of that is like, I really like when a yandere kidnaps me and steals my pee.
Yes. Listen, I don't know. Something about Future Diary just like changed the brain chemistry in a lot of people, and they're like, I find a girl that wants to kill me and then herself pretty hot.
3 out of 10.
Yeah.
Next is Supercube. Let me lead by saying one of the best dubs I've ever seen. You know, I'm usually criticizing the English dub industry, but I gotta say, like, huge props to everyone who worked on this one. The plot of this a little bit confusing. The first half of it, there was like a guy. There may have been some time travel. There was like some crazy fight, like really well animated fight scene. Like they were floating and like on the side of a skyscraper or something.
Yeah, there was some real fucking Zack Snyder Superman level damage going on there.
It was reminding me of like Daima, and I was thinking like I like this better than the floaty in Daima.
It's kind of reminiscent of like when they actually try to make like the flying combat like actually good in Dragon Ball, like in Super Broly, for example. Honestly, so little actually happens after that point. I think this is gonna be like one of those like slow burner type shows, at least up until like a little point. But basically, where to even begin? Like, yeah, I mean, you mentioned the voice acting. This anime was dubbed using AI, okay? And it's so funny how this turned out, okay? Because some people on Twitter are probably feeling like major fucking dumbasses right now, okay? And I say this because, as you guys know, in fact, I've probably touched upon it here in the seasonal discharge, okay? The anime localizing industry has a bit of a problem, which is that sometimes they don't accurately translate the material that they're translating. In fact, sometimes they'll even use the fact that that they're writing the script for the English version to get up on their soapbox and insert their politics that nobody asked for. So a lot of people took issue with this, and with AI becoming more of a thing, many people were like, "Oh yeah, so that means we can like cut out the middleman of anime localization and
I'm
just fucking."
sorry. The whole like politics thing is like such a stupid non-issue. Like people are butthurt that like Nagatoro said sus or something. Like it's
No,
just like
that's one of the less.
the worst one is the pesky
Well, it's like
patriarchal.
the when the character says those pesky patriarchal demands, which are like totally, it's like totally unfitting with her personality. And then the other line of dialogue was the one in prison school where she just randomly calls like a main character like a gamer gate asshole for like no reason.
Yeah, I mean
That's pretty
that
obnoxious, I
that
think.
is I agree that is cringe. It's just like
Hmm.
I mean I guess I can't say it's not a real problem because I don't watch dubs, but like
Yeah.
to me, I would much rather have like 10 times the amount of that kind of thing and not have the annoying dub voices.
Like I was getting at before, a lot of people are like, AI is the future with this shit because we're basically gonna get like, at the very least, we're gonna get, because sometimes even subs aren't accurate, which, I find really funny because a lot of people who are like sub purists will often talk about how like watching the anime subbed means you're getting the authentic experience when even subs aren't even accurately translated sometimes.
Yeah, you get the authentic performance, but you don't get the authentic translation per se.
So a lot of people are like AI is the future. It's gonna fucking accurately translate anime subs. AI is the future. We're gonna like bypass localizing altogether because the people who created this shit can just translate it themselves for the dub. And then we get this, and it's pretty self-evident that if AI is the future for translations, I'd say it has a pretty long way to go because the dub in this is terrible. It's really bad.
What are you talking about? There was so many iconic moments, like when the girl was like, "Do I have to?" and then everyone in unison said, "You have to."
Yeah, and the thing is, I could be wrong on this. I'm not entirely sure how this was AI dubbed because there's multiple ways to do it. At first, I thought maybe that they dubbed it by like training voices on like the native speakers'
it
voices,
it
and that's
was
why they had like,
weird because like some of the voice acting like sounded kind of normal, and
yeah.
then some of it sounded like full on like robot, and then some of it sounded just like pretty flat.
I was mainly getting at the accents because a lot of them do
Oh
sound,
yeah, they do have
yeah.
Chinese
They do
accents.
have Chinese accents, and that's why I thought maybe it was trained on the native speakers' voices. But then I remembered that actually sometimes, like one of the ways of doing AI voice acting is actually by like getting voices and then like recording yourself speaking, and then it generates your voice like overlaid with like the other voice, and maybe they got like the fucking original actors to do the script twice in both, and that's why the accents are there. But yeah, it doesn't sound great. There's barely any emotion behind it. It's very flat, and it's most likely text to speech because I feel like if it was the actual speakers, like there would have been a little bit more emotion behind it than there was. And the sound mixing is terrible. It doesn't sound like their voice acting is native to the scene that they're in. It sounds like those bad, like, like K-pop dubs when they dub over those, like they don't really try to make them the voice of the English dubs sound like they're actually in the environment. I don't know. There was nothing good about it. Nothing redeemable
I thought
about the
the
dub.
worst part was in the beginning when she's like in the library or whatever,
Hmm.
and the like voice starts guiding her through escaping, and under her breath she is just saying robot voice like, "What now?
Yeah.
Go left?
It's
Okay."
not great. Although the thing that did get me to check this show out was when I saw someone post like a clip of the opening fight scene on Twitter, and the animation is pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's very well animated.
I'm assuming it's going to be a while before we see a fight like that again because not even the rest of the first episode doesn't look like that. None of the second episode looks like that. Unless what it was one of those big, like, we're going to blow our budget on the opening to hook people in, and then it just never looks like that ever again, which would be very disappointing, to say the least. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what's going on at the start. After the fight, it does seem like there are some weird time travel shenanigans going on. I mean, the guy does refer to something like a cycle, and then like they cut to a watch on like the table. So like
Yeah, that's pretty clear cut.
that, it does seem like there might be like some time travel shit. A lot of people were comparing this to fucking JJK because people are like, yeah, this show seems like it might be all aura, no substance, and I can kind of see that, especially considering the fact that one of the characters' attacks during that fight was literally a domain. So like he like trapped him in a fucking thing, and it's like I don't know. There just wasn't that much after that. We see how I don't know if the character that we see after and like the guy who was doing all that Dragon Ball Z shit are supposed to be the same guy. Like if that's him from the future.
I think it probably is. To finish the summary, because not that much happens in the second half. He's like at a club with like some people and his childhood friend, and they're like trying to get her to confess who she likes.
Yeah.
And she comes out and says like, oh, actually I like main character Kun or whatever.
Yeah.
And
Do they say kun in Chinese?
no, I don't know Chinese honorifics. Then the guys take the main character out to a bridge and they beat his ass and they're like, how dare that girl like you?
No, it's like someone leaked it to like the boss of some gang that and like they like decide to like attack him for it because he's like really possessive of over her. This plot is like way drawn out because the main plot of the second episode also basically revolves around this plot thread. And it's just like, Jesus Christ, guys. I don't think any of this actually has to do with like the main plot. So like the fact that we're spending this much time on it is crazy.
So the main character, they like Skype the girl and are showing him getting beat up, and he's like, leave her out of this. This is between you and me. And
Yeah.
then he headbutts them and falls into the river. And he's like, if I can't protect the ones I love, I'm just gonna kill myself.
And then he finds the Tesseract.
Yeah, but then at the bottom of the river, there's a cube, and the cube lets him teleport. And he uses the teleport cube, and that's the first episode.
Yeah, it allows him to teleport and fly. It's kind of like a way better. The way that it works is that it's kind of like a way better version of like instant transmission because, well, it's like better in terms of how you can teleport with it, but it's weaker in terms of the fact that you can't travel as far. Like you can teleport basically anywhere within a
Okay,
15-mile
I'm sorry.
radius.
This is like a Dragon Ball brain moment. It's nothing like instant transmission. Just say it's a cube that lets you teleport a
You
set
can
distance.
teleport anywhere within a set distance, as opposed to like fucking instant transmission where you have to fucking zero in on someone's power level. I don't know. It just made me.
Exactly. So it has nothing in common with
Is
it.
this show not fucking inviting Dragon Ball fucking comparisons with that opening fight scene? Come on, like it forced my brain into Dragon Ball mode because that's characters fucking
Bruh.
flying around and doing this shit, and it's actually so funny because the fucking hand-to-hand combat at the start of that fight was like so grounded, like it was like regular ass, just like people throwing punches, like martial arts shit. So like when it escalates, it's like, oh, okay. I guess now we're doing fucking Dragon Ball Z, and we're also killing innocent civilians by like throwing the bad guys into like an apartment complex and it explodes and people definitely fucking died in there.
I mean, it's more Superman than Dragon Ball.
I guess.
Snyder, like you said earlier, it's like Snyder.
Yeah. And like I in the second episode we learn like a little bit about the cube. Um it like fused into his body and it seems really interested in helping him achieve his goal of wanting to become king of the world, of which the main character is like, I have no idea what you're talking about. That's not my goal at all. Whatever. I guess you're with me now, so I might as well make good use of you. And he also learns that he can level up his ability to do it because the more times he does it, the more power he uses, and he doesn't have that much power, so he can increase how much power he has by absorbing pretty much any old rock. Like it can be any stone, but the more rarer the material, the more of a power up he gets from it. And I guess on the subject of random power ups, I don't know why, but for some reason the way this was all presented to us like very much reminded me of solo leveling for some reason, especially because it does have like a bit of a system thing going on there where you see his stats and
I am like 99.999% sure that this is a manhwa adaptation, as in like with a
manhwa.
yeah, with an
Hmm.
HU, because this is like such a manhwa premise. Like
Hmm.
I've literally read a Chinese manhwa where a guy finds a cube that gives him special powers.
Yeah.
So it's at once like extremely my shit, but at the same time, I generally don't like Chinese manhwa because I find them to be, I mean, they tend to be pretty long, which I like. I feel like they tend to be a bit shallower, like in terms of characters. they tend to be extremely sexist. For whatever reason, I guess Chinese people are really sexist. I'm sorry, because like,
But are they as bad as Korea?
they're way worse. Like, at least in terms of like the impression I get from reading comics, like Korea, I would say they're like at a similar level to Japan in terms of how sexist they are. There's also like kind of a genre divide. System manhwa, like Solo Leveling, you know, the first episode I complained about that female hunter showing up too early. So like women get to do stuff versus like the girls in Chinese manhwa tend to have like two modes. Either it's like the girl in this where she's just like a cute girl that they need to protect, or it's like, oh, she's like a bitchy bimbo and she like uses like poison powers to try and poison characters, and there's not a lot of in between.
Damn. So what you're saying is that China does not pass the Bechdel test.
No. Oh, you know what? That reminds me, the other thing I don't like about manhwa is the male characters tend to be really like hyper toxic masculinity.
Well, that's not. Wait, are we talking about Chinese or Korean ones?
Chinese.
Because I was gonna say that John Yu or Sung Woo or whatever his fucking name is in Solo Leveling, that's not toxic masculinity. That nigga cried.
Yeah.
Which is actually really funny because that show then actually exposed people's toxic masculinity, and they were like, that nigga crying. So like, I mean, Jesus, guys. The whole point is that his mom is like in the hospital bed. Of course he's crying. Like, what, guys? Come on.
I'd say Korean male characters tend to be kind of split between like, there are some that are more closer to like the Japanese style of isekai character where they're like extremely cocked.
Mm-hmm.
And then like the other side of it is like, it's like more of a cocky confidence, but it's not like super toxic. And then in Chinese manhwa,
Hey man, having confidence is not toxic. That's good.
in Chinese manhwa, there's a Chinese expression that I hear quoted sometimes in those, which is like, I pay back the debts to my allies tenfold and my enemies 1,000-fold. I think that encapsulates it pretty well. Like, there was one I dropped where the main character just like killed a person's whole bloodline, and he killed like 1,000 people because this person pissed him off. That's what Chinese people fantasize about, apparently. This doesn't seem too bad in that respect. He's just like doing a more normal, like, I have to protect the girl, I can't involve her in this, which is like a more innocent kind of sexism, so that's fine, I guess. I'd watch more of this.
Let her fight the gang boss. Lol. Because
Yes.
that's actually what ends up happening in the second episode. Because it turns out that him absorbing rocks doesn't just increase his teleportation abilities, it also increases his like athleticism and endurance. Although for some reason this also just gives him the ability to also be good at martial arts for some fucking reason.
It's because it's a trope. It's because it's a manhwa trope, so they're like, you know that this happens. We don't need to explain it.
The fucking like gang boss and the main character like have a fight because like the main character is basically trying to like end the gang boss's stalking of this girl like for good. And it turns out that just from absorbing like some random rock he found in his backyard, his power level went out from like 5 to like 22, which is insane for like a regular like unrare stone. Because that means if you find something like gold, it's like Jesus, we might start seeing the shit we saw at the start. The fight isn't as one-sided as you would expect it to be. He takes down one of the gang's greatest fighters, but obviously he's not strong enough to like take on people like multiple people at once. Because like it seems like the base level for like your average guy is like 5, and obviously if you have like 10 people with like a strength level of 5 taking on a person with like a strength level of 22, I mean they're gonna have a field day with that guy. And I certainly wish that's how power levels worked in Dragon Ball, because maybe the characters actually like ganging up on someone would actually be like worth a damn and would actually like do something when it seems to never really do that. And yet somehow a guy manages to have higher odds doing fucking one-on-one. And then the episode kind of just ends before like he gets rushed by the rest of the gang. Like nothing really happens in the second episode. It's just like him learning how to power up. It's him having to deal with like the guys harassing his not girlfriend because I guess despite the fact that they both know they're mutually attracted to each other, they're not dating yet for some reason. And that's it. I'm not entirely sure if I would watch more of this.
I'd check out more, but if I was reading this, I would probably read like 50 chapters and then something would piss me off.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is the characters can be pretty stupid sometimes. So I'm guessing this main character is going to do some really dumb shit.
Yeah.
That's a system Chinese manhwa I read. They established like a really horribly designed system, and the main character just used it in the worst, most inefficient way possible. And I had to drop it because it was so infuriating to read.
Damn. Backseat gamer.
So it'd probably go something like that I'd read like 50 chapters of this and be like, I can't anymore.
Despite this being a Chinese production, the director for this has actually worked on a few Japanime. The director, his name is Ming Fang. He did some key animation on everyone's favorite anime that definitely didn't have an underwhelming ending at all, Wonder Egg Priority. And he also did key animation on the last season of, well, the first part of the last season of Attack on Titan. That shit's still going, by the way.
No, I think it's over.
Oh, it is?
Yeah. Wonder Egg looked good all the way through, at least.
Yeah.
I mean, the plot was awful, but it looked good.
I'd say for this show, it has one of those moments where like it has a really impressive anime, and then like other times it kind of just looks average. Was it just me, or did it have like three art styles? Because it had like the really impressive like Sakuga animation, and then it had like the
Sakuga went like full on ping pong. It was like very loose.
Yeah, and like realistic-esque. Like the characters' eyes were more detailed
yeah,
in the way that they were drawn. And then there was like the kind of like average, like middle of the road like style anime, and then you had like something a little bit more polished, especially the art style where they like color the irises green. I noticed that was like better looking than how the anime usually looks.
I did like that like you could kind of tell that it was not like Japanese style. Like the way the eyes were like a little bit big for an anime.
Mm-hmm.
And I did find it like pleasing to look at.
Yeah.
I'll give them credit. That's the other thing about Chinese manhwas is the art tends to be like noticeably worse than Korean.
Let me see if this is based on a manhwa as we're speculating. Oh, it is.
I would give it like a solid, not even a strong 6, just a 6 based on the first episode, but I deduct a point for having watched the dub. I'd give the dub a 5.
That shit even like fucking tested with English audiences before they put that shit out?
Surely not.
I have no idea what made them think that was acceptable.
That's like on the level of like that one anime clip where the guy is like saying like I'm going to beat your ass. Come over here.
It reminds me of that video game which it's like a pretty infamous clip from some obscure like isekai RPG where it's like, I think I'm making sense of all this now, but how do I get back to Tokyo? And you can and it's like, okay, dude.
Next up is Lazarus. Basically, the premise of this show is it's like set in the kind of distant future. And there's this genius, world-renowned doctor, scientist guy that developed this miracle drug that everybody is on. And one day he comes up on the monitor and, you know, he's like, I've come to make an announcement. He's like, yeah, so guys, I know I'm like a really cool, like nobleman guy, but like,
I made a painkiller, the fucking...
Yeah, I've been thinking about it. I've been thinking about it, and like, I think humanity, we're just fundamentally evil. So yeah, I like secretly made that miracle drug and like I secretly designed it to just kill anyone who takes it after 3 years.
And this passed all testing by the FDA, the whatever DA, the.
It's not totally unbelievable to me that
You're right. It is not totally believable because sometimes we'll do something like hastily put together a vaccine and then release it into the public. No, I'm kidding.
For the record, the mRNA vaccines we had already been testing them. It was just that they rushed out like that final part of it to get that specific vaccine out. But
when I heard about that miracle drug, I was like, damn, I want that. Because, Aarlon, you probably know this. I am in constant muscular structural pain all the time, even right now. And I was like, if I had that, that would be great. And then it was like, yeah, and then you die like 5 years after. And I'm like, oh.
Too late. You already
And it makes the pain, that means it makes the pain stop permanently. So not just the physical pain, but also the emotional pain.
100% effective.
Yeah.
It is kind of like, wow, that's like a pretty fast timeline. For like 3 years, it made it through all the testing and got distributed to everyone in the world. That's pretty fast. But I guess it is the future, so maybe they've just streamlined it. But I mean, this is why you spend more than 3 years testing.
I also find it kind of funny that he was like, I'm not trying to play God, but then he also specifically used the term, we need to be judged for our sins.
That was kind of a cop-out on his part.
And I'm just like, bro, you are literally trying to play God. Like,
yeah. The part about it killing you and like slipping under the radar, I think that part is believable. It's just the timeline is like a little bit like, 3 years, really?
Maybe if it was 10.
Yeah, if it was 10, I wouldn't have raised an eyebrow at that. Like you alluded to, he's like, but like, I'm not trying to play God, so like, I'm still alive and I have the antidote. So if you can find me before in a month, people start
30 days.
Dying because we hit the 3-year mark.
Well, I think people are already dying, right?
No, he said people will start dying in like a month.
Oh, so they have a month to catch him, okay.
If you can catch me before then you can get the antidote and like maybe distribute it out to everyone in time. I don't really understand who these people are. They're like government people and they're like, we need this guy who's really good at acrobatics to help us find him.
His name is Axel. Yeah, he's good at acrobatics, but does he have like really good like tracking skills?
Yeah, I don't quite get why they need Axel, but they do track him down in prison.
I mean, I guess he's part of a team, so.
Yeah, they're putting together a team. And he just immediately breaks out.
Because he's known for breaking out of prisons.
And most of the first episode is just them chasing him and him just doing like
most
these.
Of the first episode is hardcore parkour!
Yes, him doing hardcore parkour, and it's really well animated and it's crazy.
Yeah, it's really good.
But in the end, they do catch him after a very elaborate chase sequence.
They had to cheat to catch him. They had to fucking pretend to be like the girl. Like
yeah, she took a selfie with him and then tased him while she was doing that.
Yeah, I gotta say that's cheating. Zero. That doesn't count. But I also do find it kind of funny that the main character is so overpowered that like even in like a situation where he shouldn't really be able to get to escape, he still does.
Yeah, he jumped off the building and grabbed onto a drone.
Ironically, he was able to do that because the other kid was with them, because the kid was the one who was flying that drone in the first place.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
That was kind of a major fuck up on their part there, but
that whole chase scene was awesome because he was like using the environment in all sorts of creative ways.
Yeah, it was hardcore parkour.
Yeah.
If you look at the poster, you'll notice that the visuals of the poster, the colors that they use are very familiar. And if you listen to the soundtrack of this, there's a lot of, jazz going on. Oh
yeah, and it looks. I didn't know that it's the same director. Is that it? Is Cowboy Bebop?
I didn't, or I guess I forgot because I remember people talking about it on Twitter, and then I remembered when I read it on AniList. It is, in fact, the same director as Cowboy Bebop, Shinichiro Watanabe, I think his name is. Watanabe, we'll just call him that.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I actually did not know anything about that.
I did see people who've watched further than us say that it is decidedly not as good as Bebop, but I have not seen Bebop, so I have no opinion.
I didn't know anything about that, but I did see it. I was like, wow, this is like heavily inspired by Cowboy Bebop.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess it literally is because it's the same guy. So there you go.
Behind the scenes, I think you mentioned before that this is according to Annulus, it's produced by Adult Swim, so it's another one of those. That's why I was asking if there's a sub for this, because for a second I thought maybe it was one of those situations where it was made in English first, but obviously not, since it has a Japanese director. I guess Adult Swim is just footing the bill on this or something. Who knows?
It does make sense because Cowboy Bebop is on Adult Swim, so.
I actually thought that because this was made by Adult Swim, that's why there was so many or produced by Adult Swim, that's why there was so many people of color in the background that actually look like people of color, not just like a normal ass anime character with like dark skin. Because I've noticed that like productions that have Western influence of any kind generally tend to capture the appearance of people of color a little bit more accurately. Although that has become less of a problem as time goes on, probably because they've become a lot more aware of their international audience. So they're like, yeah, we need to not fuck this up. But I mean, part of it is also the fact that I do believe this show does take place in the U.S., I think. And I found it kind of funny how one of the scenes was a press hearing of the president, and the president was a lady, and like, oh, we did it. 1,000 years in the future, we finally have Madam President, and it's like, but
Let's go.
in my mind, I'm just thinking, yeah, even 1,000 years in the future, we're still not gonna have Madam President. Just saying.
Yeah, can you imagine if it was still Trump? He's just still
Like
alive.
we finally we achieved the singularity that quickly that we have
Yeah.
fucking Donald Trump 1,000 years in the future. That'd be fucking insane.
Actually, that does remind me, like, I think that this show is really important. And this is like a really appropriate time for this show to be coming out because I think this sentiment is really common, especially like in our current political climate with all like the evil shit that's happening.
Hmm.
It becomes increasingly easy to become kind of cynical and disheartened with humanity and just feel like
To become basically like the doctor who made the medicine.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I know like I'm a big Hank Green fan, and
Hmm.
this is like a battle Hank Green fights that it keeps coming back up that he'll bring up that like he doesn't like that sentiment, and always it'll get a bunch of backlash from people being like, no, like humanity is bad and we should go extinct.
Bruh. Look at all the harm we're doing to the environment. We deserve to
Yeah,
die.
actually, my mom does that too.
Bruh.
She says that constantly, like, "Ah, we're killing the planet. We should just go extinct." But
L.
like,
Arlon Mom. Anyone who says that should realize that the planet exists so that we can inhabit it.
bro,
So
Bobby.
there's no point to the planet if we're not here.
Okay, well, I disagree with that. That's like a very human centric. The planet does not exist so we can inhabit it. The planet
Nah,
simply exists, and we share it with many other organisms. And we're killing those fellow inhabitants.
nah.
So I think the perspective is kind of like humans are the worst inhabitants and we're messing with the natural order. I don't share that perspective necessarily because I don't think humans are like fundamentally that different from animals.
I mean, humans like started out fucked up, and then we had to kind of like civilize
Yeah,
ourselves.
exactly. Well, oh, I don't know. I don't know what that terminology. Uh, that's also not entirely true.
You're right. White
Uh,
people had to civilize themselves. We kind of needed to have our countries be colonized. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I think like the brutality of early humans gets overstated. It's like kind of a right wing idea that like, oh yeah, like the natural order is like
Uh,
fascism, and
I don't
that's
know. I
not
feel like
true. But
I feel like laws are kind of like a natural consequence of the fact that people did a lot of fucked up shit. Like we
uh,
needed to find a way to discourage people from doing those things. I feel like now because we're like more sensible, you could in theory, I mean a lot of people would take advantage of it, but you could in theory remove laws and a lot of people would still be like well behaved. But like before laws existed and like these societal expectations were like placed on us, I think people were pretty.
I would say laws are a natural consequence of states, or like at least the upscaling of human organization.
Hmm.
When you exist in like a tribe of like 100 people, everyone knows each other, and like if someone does something fucked up, everyone knows about it, and they'll try and rehabilitate that person, and if they're too much of a problem,
They'll
then
send them to the gulags.
no, we didn't have gulags back then. Then you excise them from your tribe, and
You
they're
throw them in the volcano.
yeah, they're thrown off into the wilderness to fend for themselves, and they probably die. However, they're ideally you don't get to that point. Versus, but the nice thing about it is like, rather than having to go by like the rigid rules, it can be on a case by case basis, which tends to be better. But when you lose the interpersonal element, you have to abstract everything, and that comes with like a whole host of problems. Why were we talking about? Oh, right. But my point is that I don't like, that's how things were. It wasn't like, might makes right necessarily. It was just much smaller communities.
You're telling me that rape wasn't happening left and right in these societies, Aarlon?
That is a very good. I doubt it was happening like all the time, but well, it also like depends. Like I know like Native or like American Indians, whatever the correct term is.
Look at you saying whatever it is all dismissively like that instead of bothering to educate yourself.
I'm
Canceled.
sorry. In the Native Americas, where indigenous people all throughout the continents lived, I know like in some like tribes that were like matriarchal or whatever, so like,
Yeah.
but
they just rape the men, so.
So yeah, I'm not an anthropologist, so I wouldn't know, but I definitely wouldn't say like it's like the conservative notion of it that like, oh yeah, like women were like barefoot and pregnant like from the start of history. Like no.
I would probably say that before society developed a little bit more, women were definitely subject to the whims of men a little bit more than they are now.
Well, I think it just depends what developmental period in history you're talking.
Oh, we're gonna have to cut this into its own segment.
Yeah, we're way off track here. We're way in the weeds.
But these the deep conversations that the work of Shinichiro Watanabe can like get out of people. Like you're gonna carry that weight, man. You're gonna carry that weight.
Anyway, all that is to say, like, it's less about that and more about like what's like the real us. Is it like, oh well, this is just like what the system we're in has incentivized us to be like, or is it our true nature? Personally, I've become more cynical, like just being too online, seeing like the way people take so much pleasure and like, I mean, not to be cringe, but like the like cancel culture stuff as a across the political spectrum. People love canceling people, and like there's a certain glee in like taking someone down a peg
to the point where sometimes people won't even bother to verify if what they're doing it on is factual.
Oh yeah, like yeah.
Saberspark.
Yeah, I was gonna say Saberspark. I was like, should I open that can of worms? But yeah, the fake rape allegations against Saberspark that the Santa Twitter account retweeted and were like, fuck Saberspark, he's on the naughty list. Which also, by the way, is even if they were real, that would be an extremely poor taste for the Santa Twitter account to be tweeting. But I digress. I think the people need answers. They need a model to look towards.
Damn, Aarlon, it sounds like you're saying we need to go back to being like religious, and like we should all just like drop the secularness that we've been doing up until this point.
No, not that. I don't mean like as a solution to the social media stuff. I just mean like
open our Bibles and
I just mean like we're all going through a rough time right now. I think we could use something to help us reconcile this darker side, or at least I could, this darker side of humanity, because like it's tough. It's tough sometimes.
That is definitely what people use religion for. Kind of.
Yeah, but well, I don't know. I think a religion is like, it's kind of the opposite, that it's more like at least Christianity like falls into what I consider like a very unhealthy thought pattern that I've increasingly been doing too recently, which is just like Man, wouldn't it be great if like Trump went to hell and suffered for all the bad stuff he's done? It's like
That's
that's
not
not a
how you're supposed to think, but that is definitely a lot of how evangelicals think in any case.
well, I think that is like the fundamental appeal of heaven and hell as a concept.
Hmm.
Is like the wicked suffers and like the good are rewarded. So like
Yeah.
all these people doing like this monstrous stuff, like it's okay because they're gonna suffer in the afterlife.
So what you're saying is that it's not based to be like, can you like take Luigi Mangione like near the White House just one time? Leave him unguarded
No,
around the White House.
I think that is based because that's kind of a separate matter of like the punishment aspect. That's more just about like we've got a problem. We've got a problem that needs solving here,
Yeah. And incidentally, this anime was animated by Studio Mappa.
Lol. Man, Mappa be animating everything these days.
Yeah, I mean, it does look pretty good.
That was
Yeah.
pretty good. I'll definitely watch more of it. 8 out
Hmm.
of 10 for the first episode.
The animation is really good. The action, the parkour. Oh yeah, I actually had written in my notes pain, sensation, and what makes us human. LOL. I like the part where it comments on how pain actually is something that makes us human too, and that's why he kind of partially regretted making that even. I was thinking more about it in like a survivalist aspect, and like, yeah, we literally need pain to survive because it's like the first thing that tells us that something is wrong. But it also made me like a little bit confused because I thought it was a pain killer, not a pain nullifier. Like it just kills your nerves completely. But then that he kind of made it sound like that's what it was, and I was a little bit confused. But maybe I just didn't
I
properly
assume it
understand.
just makes it so you can't feel any like significant pain.
Yeah.
Because why else would everyone be taking it? Like, if it just made you numb, I mean, that's kind of sounding like some Brave New World.
Mm-hmm. No, all of them are just 1984. They're all just 19.
Yeah, they don't do that in 1984.
They're all just 1984. They're all just Ant Farm.
Fahrenheit 451, they also do that. They take drugs, but I think Brave New World is the one that's like super drug focused.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting. I guess I was too distracted by my own my own shit going on that just reminded me of all that.
Hey
Yeah,
man,
that's
art
thematically
art helps
interesting.
with self-exploration and shit. It's not just a tool to understand what someone else is trying to communicate, but also a tool to help you understand more about yourself. Someday you're like, I want to be the chattiest of chads, and then you watch Fate one time and you see Astolfo and you're like, you know what? I think I want to like laser my leg hair off. You know.
That couldn't be me. Next is Shiunji family.
The Shiunji family. It's a show about a family called the Shiunji family. Lol. It's like a sibling of like 8 kids living in one house.
They're like
Um,
a fancy family because
yeah,
they're talking about like producing an error.
they're like up there, pretty
Yeah,
affluent, and like the oldest brother, who's like the main character, I guess, is like the heir apparent to inheriting like their estate or whatever, like all their property, and like becoming the head of the family. And so I became aware of this show because a lot of people were talking about how this is the latest of the incest genre, a genre that, funnily enough, seems to be dying off actually. Like you'll have like harem anime where they'll have like the sister there, and the sister is like clearly into the protagonist, but like is never really treated seriously as a love interest. It's kind of like, no, the sister's just a dumbass. Yeah, so it kind of seems like that genre is dying off. So when this came out, it was a little bit unexpected. But then, I mean, I feel like I should just jump straight to it. They are not fucking related. This is not an incest show.
yeah. That
Uh,
is the premise of the show. It takes the whole first episode to get to it, but that's like the reveal. As the dad is like, "Happy birthday, son! You're adopted. You're all adopted."
which is really funny because like the first 2 minutes of this episode are like all the siblings like basically discussing the philosophy and like the ethics of like incestuous relationships.
Yeah, they
And they're
go through all the siblings and show each archetype. It's like this one's the smart one. It's like they convey their archetype through their thoughts on incest.
like at the start of the episode, they're literally talking about like, oh, you can have like birth defects
Yeah,
if you, and then the other one's like, yeah, but like this psychology or whatever triumphs over love, triumphs over science. So if you
yeah,
really,
they're all revealing their archetypes through it. So the smart one says
yeah,
incest is illogical
I mean,
because inbreeding.
I will say that that way of establishing their personalities and who they are was certainly a lot better than what they did almost immediately after, which is like have
Oh my
the younger
god, I know
younger
exactly what
brother
you're talking about.
describe them one by one in the middle of a conversation as if it's
To
not.
each other.
Yeah,
As you know, our siblings, the smart, one of our siblings is smart. One of them is blah 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 blah.
yeah, and they really could have just left it at that conversation at the start. Like that would have communicated everything that you needed to know about them.
That was such padding. That was pretty funny.
Yeah. No, I hated it, and it actually reminded me of how much
Yeah, it was terrible.
I was triggered by fucking I forget what it's called. That one like Harry Potter-esque show doing that exact same thing. Yeah.
Oh, Reign of the Seven Spellblades?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to be honest, it kind of felt like that whole first conversation was like a total waste of time because
Yeah.
they are not. I think two of them are because they're actually twins, but I
Yeah,
forget.
the brother that's not the main character and the athletic girl, I believe, are actually twins.
Yeah.
That's like pretty fucked up of the dad to be like not like it's one thing to not tell them they're adopted until they're older, but it's another thing to be like, hey, you two are fraternal twins
Hmm.
and just lie about it.
Yeah.
Like there was no benefit to him doing that. It was just to troll them.
And one of the girls, I think it's the youngest sibling, because this was all done on her birthday. She just turned 15. Because the dad made a promise to reveal the truth on that girl's 15th birthday.
Yeah,
Um,
to the mom.
there was an incident that happened with her where she like before all of this was revealed, where she confessed her feelings to the older brother, the main character, and it's kind of become a source of tension and a little bit of awkwardness. And at the end of the episode, she basically decides to make a full-on move on him, and now that there's no ancestral boundaries getting in the way
Yeah.
at all.
Dude.
It kind of seems like all of this was just done so that like the main character and his harem can live in the same house.
I'm
Because
sorry, like
I don't
if
think any of the fact that they were raised together was going to matter.
if you make your show about step siblings, you are a coward. You are a fucking coward. You hack ass writers.
Well,
It is equally immorally wrong still because they're still raised in the same household, so there's still the whatever weird dynamics. All you've done is take away the taboo to make yourself feel good about yourself. Go fuck yourself, you bitch.
that's what I was gonna say is that this show like would probably be still like a little bit taboo to like most people, but for me, I'm kind of just over here like, well, the moment you like remove like the blood factor and like the fucking possibility of producing monstrosities, I'm just like, well, who the fuck cares?
Yeah,
Like
now it's just like a normal harem. It's just boring.
they took the one like major appeal that people might have had going into the show based on the way it sets itself up, and then like immediately toss it out at the end of
I
the
just
first
don't get who it's for. Like, I guess there's really people in. Is it like the editor comes in and it's like, no,
Well,
they can't be blood related, or is it literally just like there's a subsect of people that are like, I really want to commit incest, but like
I mean, to be
not like
fair,
real
we
incest
do
because
know
that's
that
scary.
we do know that there are people who are definitely into the idea of fucking their stepsister, because that's like one of the most popular genres in
Oh
porn.
yeah, I guess that's true. I guess the well, it's weird because when I think of like I don't know, like in porn, my assumption would be that the appeal is like, oh, it's like one day like a girl moves in to your house and it's like now there's a hot girl living with you. Like my step sibling is my ex, that anime.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
with this, it's like they're all raised together. They literally
Or
think they're
Aarlon
twins.
Sensei.
Bruh. Uh, they literally think they're twins. It's at that point they might as well just be blood related.
There is something that I can kind of see like the appeal of like romance with like, but at that point it's effectively no different than like childhood romance. Like the idea of like developing a relationship with someone that you were like raised with. I
Yeah.
guess I guess it's a little bit more intimate if it's like someone you were raised in the same household as, because they probably know a lot more about you than like a friend would. I suppose it depends on like how much you're willing to share with your friends. So there's like some level of appeal there. I mean, there doesn't really, I don't think there's that many step sibling shows that do that, is there? Most of them do tend to start with them already like pretty grown by the time the series starts. Like one moves in and
Yeah.
yeah. Like
Well, because, that's their target audience is like teenagers.
yeah. Well, I mean, like you start with them as teenagers, but like they had a childhood together, you know? Like that seems to be less common. It seems like more they meet at that age. Like that was the case with Domestic Girlfriend as well. They're like technically step siblings, but and I love how the parents are just okay with that too. Like they're like a little bit weirded out, but they're like, listen, we're not gonna get in the way of that. I really wonder how the mom like just feels about the fact that like the main character went back and forth between both of them. Like, Jesus, Domestic Girlfriend was a fucking trip. Yeah, I don't know. This show was a show. Go.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. It was boring. I did skim through a few episodes just to see what happens. I was curious, like, is he gonna get with the younger sister? And no, it's like full on like the most cowardly type of harem show where they just don't commit to anything and it's just slice of life shit.
Oh, and I guess a random aside is that there is a girl outside of the family he's actively trying to pursue too. So there's that.
She had a boyfriend though, I think.
Oh, was that her?
Yeah, that was like he saw her with a BF and he got all sad.
Oh, I didn't realize that was her.
Yeah.
So now he's like, thank God these people, I'm not blood related to any of these people. So my options just cleared up. I also find it funny how they keep like doing the this is like in a rom-com anime, and it's like just because you say it doesn't make it better. Just because you acknowledge you're doing it doesn't make it better.
Yeah.
Acknowledging tropes does not make the fact that you're leaning into those tropes any better. Uh, Terrible.
Um I can't decide whether I'd give this like a 3 or a 4. I mean, it wasn't that offensive per se.
The
It was
animation was
just
pretty good.
yeah, the animation was pretty good. Yeah, it wasn't like it was just boring, but like there was nothing about it that like actively pissed me off. So I guess I'd give it a 4. I don't know, a light 4. Let's talk about a good show. Let's talk about YAIBA.
Blam 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 blam.
Yes, this is Dragon
Blam blam
Ball.
blam 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 blam. So yeah, about a samurai son and his samurai dad, and I guess they live out in the jungle. Except the dad is actually kind of a deadbeat and sometimes just leaves his kid alone there, so that's nice. Yeah, they live in the jungle. You know, they're living with the animals, fighting some, hanging out with some, and then they accidentally get themselves flown out to like fucking, I guess like just a more civilized part of the country. I'm assuming Tokyo. I
Oh
don't
yeah,
know.
I forgot that they fought like a bunch. I guess it was
They fought a bunch of apes. They're
yeah, they
friends with
fought
the
a bunch of
tiger.
big gorillas, and it
Yeah,
was like in a banana factory. So they ran off and hid in a banana crate, and
yeah.
then it got shipped into the city.
When they get there at the airport is like the rival of like the main character's dad. The main character is of course YAIBA himself,
Goku.
and he's like already wanting to throw hands. He's like, oh shit, my fucking rival's here, and the rival is friends with is not friends, the dad of the girl who I guess is like the Boma of this series.
Yeah, and then he's like, "Oh nah."
Yeah. And just like Goku, because this character is pretty much exactly like Goku, Yaiba has never seen a girl before and is like a little bit more excited, I guess, to the point where it's like people it all over. And yeah,
And then she hits him just like Bulma, because
and
it's
then
Dragon
and
Ball.
then she hits him because anime, because anime is like really fond of women just abusing guys, I guess. And then we learn that like Yaiba's dad basically wants to leave him with this family for some reason. And we never really find out why, at least not in these first two episodes. He
I
kind of just,
think he's just a deadbeat and he just wants to leave.
well, it's funny because, like, I mean, he already tends to, like, leave him alone in the forest anyway. So, like, I'm kind of wondering, like, why the sudden change of heart? Like, why leave him with this, like, specific family? Or, like, leave
I
him in the
guess it's
city?
because he just wants him to like develop skills in the dojo or whatever.
Yeah, and I was thinking, like, oh, he's, like, in the city. He'll, like, get new experiences and grow as a result of those experiences. And maybe he'll become less like Goku and more like a normal-ass person. Um, but obviously Yaiba is pretty strong. So when he's tested by this family's dojo by fighting one of their strongest students, he wins.
With the craziest fucking animation you've ever seen.
Yeah, the animation in this is pretty good, and I guess that's as good a time as any to mention that this is a remake because the
Yeah,
original.
that I did not know that it was a remake, but that makes so much sense because I did see it. I was like, this looks like kind of Toriyama, but also it just looks old. It looks like an old anime.
The guy who created this is the same guy who created Detective Conan.
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
that's why it has kind of like a Conan-esque art style too. Incidentally, Yaiba and Conan are actually voiced by the same person, and they have been voiced by the same person as far back as the 80s. And I saw in like the credits on AniList when I was looking this up that Yaiba and Conan actually had a crossover at some point, and I'm just wondering what it's like watching that and hearing like the same voice come out of these two characters. I'm trying to imagine if they made like a time travel where you see Kid Gohan and Kid Goku together in the same room and they're both voiced by Stephanie Natoli, and how confusing it would get really quickly. I mean, maybe the mangaka just really likes that voice actor and wants that voice actor to voice every one of his main characters.
Just like the Vigilantes people feel about Deku, apparently.
I guess in the second episode, they establish one of the not really antagonists, it's more like a rival. The guy he's kind of like the TN of this series, because they go to school and then they go to the dojo that the girl practices in, and Yaiba meets like this guy who's like a really strong samurai. I think he's the teacher of that dojo, and he immediately tries to fight him.
Oh, I did watch the first two episodes. I remember this.
Yeah, he immediately tries to fight him, and yeah, I guess he's like one of his goals now for the series. He's gonna try and get as strong as him, and then eventually they'll have like a little showdown.
That's the fight I was saying the animation was really good in.
I mean, I'm basically just calling him Tien because he's bold and kind of serious.
He
I
does
don't.
look like him.
Here's the part where I would say that there was probably some major coping going on, because the mangaka swears. Okay, swears is probably a bit of an exaggeration, that Yaiba is in no way inspired by Dragon Ball, because I'm not buying it. Okay, that is 100%. I mean, it's too similar to. I'd have an easier time buying that if like Oda said that about One Piece. But
Yeah, that's cap.
yeah, it's too much like Dragon Ball. Like a lot of people were like immediately like, yeah. It's not so much, or it doesn't seem like it is an adventure story. I have seen like some clips of a couple episodes ahead. It does seem to revolve mainly around taking place in the city, but like sometimes you'll fight monsters or whatever. Not sure how those come into the picture. But yeah, so there are like supernatural elements in it later on down the line with him fighting those monsters. And I saw some side by side clips of this and the 80s show. And the funny thing is the 80s show actually does look pretty good, but obviously it's an 80s show, so like the animation isn't like on this level. So it is a pretty sharp contrast. I forget what studio this was animated by. Let me quickly check. I do believe it's the same studio as one of the shows we talked about before. I just forget which one.
Mappa, because everything is animated by Mappa now.
Oh, Studio Wit, right. The people who are making Wit Piece. Oh yeah, that's one of the reasons. Okay, so one something that I wrote before in my lost notes because my phone got fucked. So YAIBA, I think, is kind of meant to be about as grounded as original Dragon Ball was in terms of its action. But it does seem like with this, things get a little bit flashy with like the super impressive animation. And
Hmm.
it's still fairly grounded. Like they're not doing any insane like flying around shit. But I remember when I like saw like one of the concerns I had for Wit Piece was that like the action in say like East Blue wouldn't feel as grounded as it should, and like the action sequences and that would like immediately jump to like Wano tier. Yaiba kind of like leaves me feeling like, okay, that's probably not like too big of a concern because the action is still fairly grounded, but then it can also still feel like that level just because of how the animation is, regardless of how grounded what they're doing actually is, if that makes sense. So it's like kind of like a balancing act, and I'm hoping whenever Wit Piece comes out, they do figure that out. But yeah, what did you think of this show?
Uh, I mean, it was fun. It's,
Hmm.
in some ways it's a little bit dated. Maybe it hasn't aged perfectly, just like Dragon Ball, actually.
Oh, actually, on the subject of things not aging well, I haven't seen the original and I haven't read the manga, so I don't know how far true this is. But you know how people always complain about, say, for example, obnoxious fan service scenes like in the original Dragon Ball with Master Roshi?
Yeah.
Supposedly, the original Yaiba had a fair bit of that, and in this remake, they actually cut a lot of that out. I'm not entirely sure how much because we do see like a scene of like Yaiba going in the changing room while the girl is getting undressed. I mean he's not a pervert or anything, but and that scene wasn't like a fan service scene per se, but from what I heard, it does seem like
Probably in the manga, she got like her titties out. It's like,
pro-
Kia.
yeah, they cut out like a lot of shit. So I guess what I'm saying is if they remake Dragon Ball, maybe you can expect that, and then we won't have Roshi watching Bulma in the fucking toilet.
But how could we lose such an iconic moment?
The manga somehow managed to survive without it.
I mean, yeah, Yaiba. I think it was carried by the animation being very good.
Hmm.
I liked the rival guy. That was fun. I mean, I don't know. I mean, like, even if it is like a little bit sexist, I do like Bulma and Goku's dynamic. So I guess I'm happy to see it translated into this other thing that's not not inspired by that. Apparently,
Yeah, okay, I do want to clarify. It was only like one article that said that, and sometimes articles lie. So,
okay.
but I could not find any explicit statement. Like aside from that one saying that he said it wasn't inspired by Dragon Ball, I couldn't find any statement of him saying it was either. So, it's kind of like a massive question mark there. But it seems to me like it was pretty obvious that it was.
But yeah, yeah. I'd say overall it was fun. I'd give it like a 7 out of 10, and I guess my opinion on it would depend where it goes. I'll probably watch more.
Hmm.
I mean, I'll say when I watched it, I was ready to click next episode, and I was like, no, we've got the podcast. I shouldn't do that. So
Yeah.
that's
And
positive.
yeah, that's a pretty good sign. I guess if you're someone who really enjoyed Daima as that was airing, and you're like, damn, I want more stuff that like is reminiscent of like original Dragon Ball. It's pretty convenient that this show came out pretty much right as Daima ended. So,
True. It is more like OG Dragon Ball than Taima is.
well, literally, because it's like almost the exact same plot. Better remake of OG Dragon Ball than Dragon Ball Path to Power. Oops, did I say that out loud? Anyways, that's pretty much it.
Next is the beginning after the end.
The first slide after the last slide.
So yeah, this is another Korean manhwa adaptation. We've been getting quite a few of those lately,
Hmm.
and it's for a really good manhwa. It's an isekai, and I'd say it's one of the better isekai I've read.
Now, when you say that, Arlon, I hear a lot of people make a comparison of this manhwa to a certain other infamous erectile dysfunction having manga.
Yes.
So when you say it's good, I'm kind of like, huh, what do you mean by that?
Okay, so for one, Mushoku is good. I apologize. It's true.
Hashtag
Uh,
Munonsei Tensei.
for all its problems, like if you, uh, it's
If you ignore the pedophilia,
if you ignore the
which
pedophilia,
to be
it's a
fair,
really
if
good
you're
isekai.
which to be fair, if you are an anime fan, you are doing that anyway. So
And I mean,
with a lot of anime.
even it's too much even for me. Like I've been on the edge of dropping it because of how pedophilic Mushoku is. But
Hmm.
anyway, the way I describe the beginning after the end is like I remember like when Saihate no Paladin came out,
Hmm.
a bunch of people, maybe started by Gigik, I don't know, where it kept saying like, "Oh, it's like Mushoku, but like without all the weird stuff."
Is there no weird stuff?
In Saihate no Paladin, there actually is a little bit, but for the most part, no. And I would say that was some major coping going on, because Saihate no Paladin, like it's an alright isekai, but it is nowhere near the level of like world building and character writing as Mushoku. The beginning after the end is like actually like if those people were being honest, they'd have been talking about the beginning after the end, because this isekai, like it's extremely similar to Mushoku. Like it hits incredibly similar beats early on.
Hmm.
Like the first episode, basically just imagine the first episode of Mushoku, but like really poorly animated.
From the clips I saw of this, it's almost like with the animation, it's almost like a motion comic.
Yeah, this is the least animated anime I think I've ever seen.
That would have been the case for me if I hadn't seen some extremely low budget hentai.
But yeah, I mean, it hits all the same beats. He crawls out of the crib and learns magic, and he blows up the house. And I reread the first chapter because I saw some people complaining they cut stuff, and like they cut some of like the bonding with his parents. They added his mom being more unlikable and like freaking out about the magic for some reason.
Weird.
Overall, the main issue is just that it's
The anime,
ugly.
the animation, yeah.
Yeah.
And the fact that this anime adaptation was apparently received so poorly that I believe the manhwa author actually was just like, fuck this, and rushed to an ending, and it's basically over now.
Yeah, I heard you say that. I looked at it when I was looking at it the other day. I saw that I guess it's not over quite yet because there are still new chapters coming out. But
Okay.
that does
And the anime itself got canceled, right? The anime itself got canceled.
that
Or like
wouldn't
stopped airing.
surprise. Oh yeah, it. I read. I don't know how true this is, but I read in like the comments section that apparently it got delayed
Oh.
because the first episode was so poorly received.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just wondering how that happens, that we get so many isekai adaptations every season, and so many of them look good.
That's one of the things I actually kind of wanted to talk about. I forget which one, but one of the studios that was involved with To Be Hero X was actually the one that did the anime for this. And I think it was actually one of the Chinese ones. Yeah, they put out like a lot of shit like every year. And I'm thinking the reason why the beginning after the end came out so poorly is because with the amount of content, like they put like exceptionally more content every year compared to like most anime studios. I think they just didn't have the budget and, and they just took it on because they could, even though they probably shouldn't have. Because
It's just so depressing because, like, I didn't watch a lot of stuff this season. Out normally, I watch a bunch of fantasy stuff. I didn't really, but I did watch one show that it was like a fantasy, not isekai, about a guy who all his non-combat skills are triple S rank.
oh, I guess there was a bit of a mix-up there. That studio produced the anime, but they didn't animate it. This was
Uh,
animated by some studio called Studio ACAT or something. It actually seems like they don't do that much content.
I'm thinking of Kanchigai no Atelier Meister AU Party no Moto Satsuyo ga Kari ga Jitsu wa Sento Igai ga SSS Rank
God
to Yoru
damn.
Ayu Hanashi.
Why did they make I'm looking at like some random poster or like thumbnail for the trailer of this on Crunchyroll, and like they made the main character of the beginning and after the end looked like more Shota than he already did. Unless this is like the beginning when he learned magic or whatever. I don't know.
He starts from baby and slowly
Yeah,
ages up.
that's probably what that is.
Anyway, the point is that this random fantasy show is nothing special, and the animation is like 100 times better than the beginning after the end. It's like,
Yeah.
why would you wait? Why, like,
So
it's just a tragedy that you would make one of the best isekai get in like bottom tier animation.
how does this compare to season 3 of Blue Lock and the Ragnarok anime?
I haven't seen either of those.
Well, those are both slideshow animes, and it's actually, is there ever a moment where like they're literally moving like still images like they're using like default animations in Microsoft PowerPoint? Because if there isn't, then this is at least better than Ragnarok. So you at least
Yeah,
get
they
that.
did. They did not do that. What they do is just have very slow panning shots of characters sitting there. To
Yeah.
throughout the second episode, it's like there's so few frames.
God damn. What happened? This guy was a director. The director of this show worked on the original Hunter x Hunter, like the 90s anime.
Damn.
How the fuck? Oh no, but he's also the director of the original of School Days. And that show's animation, I mean, it was certainly better than the fucking visual novel, but that show's animation was not really anything. Nah, this show immediately gets a 10 out of 10 for him working on Peak. Oh shit, he worked on Jormungand, and I need to add that on my plan to watch because I want to watch that. Anyways, sorry, you were saying?
Yeah. Anyway, like the beginning after the end, basically it starts like Mushoku, but it goes off in its own direction. The main character is very specifically not a pedophile because there is an underage character that likes him, and he's specifically like, "Yeah, I can't get with you because you're underage. Sorry."
And is she like, what the fuck? You're not making any sense.
I don't think he actually said. I think he just turns her down, and she's upset about it.
You know what?
And
I think,
he's finally like, "You have to wait till you're an adult. Ask me again then."
I mean, that's kind of grooming, but
It is kind of groomy, but you know, like
because
still,
sometimes they'll just hold on to that, you know? They'll just hold on to, and that might actually end up being how they deal with that. Like when they get older, they're like, okay,
I mean, it is kind of groomy, but you know, like as far as isekai go, I appreciate the consideration.
and I will say, I think that's slowly starting to become a thing because there's that isekai that I was reading, the one where he's betrayed by the party or whatever. I mean, there's multiple like that, but like it's the
Yeah,
one where
that's a whole subgenre.
it's the one where he like fucks all the party members' moms. In that one, he specifically is into MILFs because he's a 30-year-old man trapped in like a
Oh,
teenage
there's a
body.
manhwa I read like that the main character gets reincarnated and he's into MILFs and he's like coming on to the teacher character and the younger girl character is always like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
That's so weird. Why are you into MILFs?
So I think maybe that's starting to become because there are moments where some like younger characters come on to him and is like in his mind is like, to be honest, I kind of view them like with the party, he like actually viewed like the two girls in that party as like basically his daughters. Like he could not do it. So, you know, maybe that's
Good.
becoming more of a thing. And I can't wait for like, listen, fiction is fiction, I don't care, but I can't wait for like all the like devout defenders of this stuff to be like, it feels like they're calling me out for like liking like this other thing, and that means that this is like retroactively like woke now. Like this is like calling me a pedophile for liking Mushoku Tensei. Like I can't wait for that to happen.
Man, here's how you know I've spent too much time editing the podcast. You said devout, and my mind just immediately flashed to devout lolicon, Shaggy, and Scooby.
Lol. I remember that. When the fuck is that coming out? The fucking
Scooby Doo anime. I don't know if there's even a date for it.
huh. Interesting. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
4 out of 10. I
Go watch Mushoku Tensei instead? Question mark.
do not read the manhwa. Just read the manhwa.
Damn.
I mean, it goes off in its own direction. It doesn't stay a Mushoku clone, is the important part.
Mm-hmm.
It starts very similar, The writing is just as good, but it kind of goes off in its own direction, and that's cool. So, read the beginning after the end.
Yeah.
Also, read Reloaded into Another World because it is one of the best isekai. That's it. 4 out of 10.
Damn.
The last anime we're going to be talking about is Please Put Them On Takamine-san. Is that what it's called?
Yes, that is what it's called. And you seem to have some pretty strong feelings about this one.
Oh my god. I watched this right before we started, which was now a very long time ago. But, 3 hours ago when we started, before we started this podcast, I watched the first episode of that, and it actually got my blood boiling. I was so mad.
Yeah.
Who is this for? So she's fucking evil.
The plot of this is that the main character is like at first I thought this was going to be like a typical like waifu of the season kind of show.
Yeah, I was not prepared for the weird. This has been a weird season. Even the normal shows are fucking weird.
So the main character is like admiring the girl from afar, Takamine herself, and she's like, oh, she's like a admirable student, straight A, etc.
She's the student, the top class student archetype.
Yeah.
The perfect girl that everyone lusts after and confesses to. But she's untouchable.
And then one day, when they're getting their test results, the main character notices that I guess it's just stated that Takamine got a 98%, which is quite a reveal because generally she tends to get full marks at 100. So she fucking out of nowhere just decides to flash herself to the fucking...
That was like so... I was watching it on my second monitor. I was like, yup, normal waifu. And then she took off her panties. I was like, what am I witnessing?
And then this scene like basically repeats itself. And like then the main character realizes something funny is going on when he realizes, oh wait, I got the same grade as I did in my dream, which was like a 52%. And it basically turns out that this show is a time travel. And the reason why
I just want to point out, doesn't that imply that he took the whole test again and just filled in the same answers?
Well, it kind of seems like everything just like instant. Does it not just instantly loop back to that moment? Like, how does it work?
I think that all that it does is rewinds time, and then she can do things differently. So
didn't she still get a 98, but she just made sure it wasn't announced this time?
No, she got 100. She got full marks.
So they did do the test again.
Her whole thing, everything has to be perfect. She has to be perfect, so she could not accept getting a 98 on a test.
Yeah, so I guess it does mean he just did the test again with the same answers, and yet some. But that's not how it was presented to us, though, because he doesn't remember that. He's like, from our perspective, we like see him and like it was like a dream. Like he's like, there's no way I could get a 52.
I guess maybe it was like a deja vu moment of he suddenly realized only after she got the marks, like, oh wait, I just saw this and she got a 98.
Well, he specifically like realizes he's in some kind of loop when he gets the exact same grade. And it's like, oh, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
It basically turns out that the reason why he remembers is because anyone who... Okay, so the way her powers work is that she can rewind time by taking off her panties, because it's anime, so of course she can. Anyone who like sees her bare tits, I guess, basically retains the ability to like remember everything through every time loop. So like he like saw her tits by accident in the gym closet when she like came in there to change, because whenever she loops time, she doesn't have her underwear on her for some reason.
The underwear stays off when she loops.
But why doesn't she just hold onto it and take it? I don't know.
I think she was saying that it literally like ceases to exist.
Or like if she's getting looped like all the way to the past and doing the test again, then why doesn't she just put on her underwear at home before going back to school?
It doesn't make sense, Coco. They didn't think this through.
She like explains her backstory. She like she was like a perfectionist even before she got her powers, but one time she made the fatal mistake of getting second place in a race, and that was because she was sick from eating like bad food. And then she wet herself, and as she was taking off her underwear to change, her powers like immediately activated. And now that like the main character knows about this, she's like, oh, and this is where things start to go a little bit off the rails.
By the way, that was like the one funny moment in this whole episode is when she was like glazing herself, being like, that really shows what like an amazing go-getter I am, since I pissed my pants because I was so upset that I didn't win the race.
Yeah, and what grade was she in? The main character was pretty stunned by that.
I think she was like 5th grade.
And they're like, "What the fuck? 5th grade, and you're still pissing yourself? What the fuck?"
Yeah.
Yeah. So she personally requests, now that main character Kun can remember everything through each time loop, for him to become her personal closet and carry underwear for her to change into whenever she loops. And the main character is like, no. And so they have like the accidental, oh, I fell on top of you while you're fucking practically naked thing. At first, the way that they made the situation look like, she's like, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have asked you that way. I should have asked you this way. And she puts his hand on her bare tit, and I was like, oh yeah, I wish girls would ask me for favors like this. And then she fucking screams, and like all the guys come into the classroom that they're in, the fucking student council room, and she basically threatens to let him go to jail under a sexual assault charge if he doesn't agree to be basically her slave.
Oh my
And
god. I
I'm
can't believe they did this shit.
I'm just over here like, holy fuck. Like, what? This shit crazy, bro. This shit is unhinged, bro.
Whose fetish is this?
It's yandere, people, and there is absolutely, because people always talk about like don't stick your dick in crazy or whatever, but people do absolutely like find the idea of like jumping in the pants of like a crazy girl who could ruin your life at any time like hot. And I imagine this show is supposed to appeal to that kind of person. It's funny because when this happened, I was thinking like, well, why doesn't he just like pretend to agree and then they can go back in time? But then it's like immediately established that no, she actually, to be fair, I think she might actually be capping when she says this, but we'll find out. Or maybe, I don't know. She says, if you go back on your word, I can just take you back to the fucking time where this happened, and I would let you get taken away by the cops. So like he can't really like outsmart her in this.
I'm just saying, like, when I watched that, what was going through my head was like, he should kill her. This person is evil.
I mean, for that he would go to jail for an even longer time.
That is true. There's just like an existential horror to it, of trapped and not even able to like go for help. You know what it made me think of was like Kilgrave in Jessica Jones, where he like has mind control, literally just like pick a person off the street and be like, yeah, you're like part of my harem now.
Bro.
And you kind of just have to like internally watch without being able to do anything. That's kind of how I feel about what she's doing. It's like against his will, she's taking control of his life.
And bear in mind that at some point or another, a romance is probably supposed to bloom from this.
No, thank you.
That's fucking insane. That's all I have to say.
Yeah.
Oh, and I guess for some reason she's just like put my panties on for me, and it's like
Because fan service.
Since when do closets put clothes on people? And it's kind of funny because I jokingly wrote down, if a woman was forcing me to put her fucking undies on because she was threatening me with false accusations of sexual assault, I probably wouldn't be like the main character where I close my eyes. I'd be like, well, fuck it, I might as well get as much out of this as I can.
Yeah.
So there you go.
2 out of 10.
It was definitely an anime.
What a note to go out on.
I guess this is like the season of yanderes or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, I mean, the girl in YAIBA isn't a yandere.
Yeah, that's true.
Or Supercube.
Yeah, she's. Oh, I was about to say she's dead. I'm thinking of To Be Hero X.
Yeah, she is dead. That's true. I guess we can't know if she was a yandere or not because she's dead.
Yeah.
Pop Step from Vigilantes. Pretty good waifu, actually. I like the way her romance is handled.
Oh, so there's a romance there.
Yes, there is a romance.
Is it better handled than Deku and Raruka?
Yes.
Well, there you go. Go and read that then.
This has been a pretty insane season. How did you feel about it, Coco?
The seasonal rape cast is back. Because I mean, if we're being honest, like forcing someone to
Oh
like
my God, you're right. This was the season of rape.
if you're forcing someone to put your underwear on, that
There was
that's a
so
form of
much.
sexual assault.
I mean, who knows what would have happened with To Be Hero X if the the idol hadn't gotten murdered? Like
God
he,
damn, you think Ling Ling would do that?
I'm just saying, like, actually, you're right. Well, the thing, imagine if like she came onto him, like, would he be able to say no? Is the question.
Yeah. Now Ling Ling would be like, I don't want to defile my goddess, so I have to tell you, um, I'm not nice. I mean, I am nice, but nice enough for you to consider dating, but not that nice. I mean, I am that nice, but like, not like that. Like nice the superhero. You know what I mean?
Yes. This season was one of the better ones we've covered. I'd say, like, there were some, there were a lot of good shows and there were a lot of crazy shows, and I feel like being a crazy season is better than being a not crazy season, because even the bad shows are like give you something to think
Frustrating
about.
show is better than something mind-numbingly dull.
Yeah, exactly.
The conversation of Sonic 06 versus Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric. That's what it boils down to.
So yeah, like a strong 7 season.
There's at least two shows on this I want to keep watching.
I'm definitely interested in like more than half. So
Yeah.
pretty good season. All right, you want to shout yourself out, Coco?
You can find me on Twitter and Blue Sky, YouTube, and Kara at Tamika Draws. I think that's about it. Yeah, you can find me
Yeah,
there.
and you can find my comic Big Billy's Adventure Everywhere at bigbilly'sadventureeverywhere.website. You can find me on Blue Sky at Aarlon and Twitter at Homokomori. Links in the description.
Yes.
That's all we have for you today. Everyone say bye.
Bye.